Well, now, tomorrow the government is due to announce whether a new nuclear power station can be built in Somerset, the first in almost 2 decades. Major infrastructure projects like this not only keep the lights on, but could also help boost our ailing economy. But how should we generate our power, and how much should we pay for it? In a moment, I'll be talking to Lord Browne about this and other things. He's the former head of BP, leading government advisor, and indeed is involved with the controversial gas extraction method, fracking. But first, here's our science editor, Tom Clark.
More than £100 billion needs to be spent overhauling Britain's energy infrastructure. And when our leaders cast round for ways to get Britain's economy growing again, that investment represents an unmissable opportunity. Revamped power grids, offshore wind farms, gas fracked from under our feet, new nuclear power plants. The investment would employ skilled engineers and technicians, and the product means cheaper, cleaner power driving growth.
Not only does it help power British businesses, but it also affects the costs that they pay for their electricity, their other energy needs. So it really is a vital part of the British structure of the economy.
After years of delay, tomorrow we will learn if Britain's first new nuclear power plant for 18 years might get built here in Somerset. But there's little hope of a nuclear renaissance anytime soon. There's interest in renewables and big gas plants, but power companies aren't reaching for their checkbooks. They blame the government for a lack of clarity about exactly how it wants Britain to be powered in future.
Energy is one of those investments where the return really takes a long time to come in. It doesn't come in next month or next year. It's going to be a horizon of 10, 20, 30 years. So unless the private sector has some security over what those returns are likely to be, what the price is likely to be, then it's simply not going to make the investment. So we've seen this over and over again with nuclear being the most recent example of that policy failure.
Against this backdrop, rays of hope, like the possibility of abundant natural gas on our doorstep. Yet the one company engaged in fracking has just halted operations, citing environmental red tape. So the lights aren't about to go out, but investment in energy, engineering and infrastructure is proving hard to switch on.
Tom Clark reporting, and now joining us is the former Chief Executive of BP and Chairman of Quadrilla Resources, the UK's only fracking company, as Tom mentioned, Lord Browne. He's just come from awarding the first Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering. So before we get to the energy sector, who won it?
The people who invented the World Wide Web, the Internet and the browser all together, all 5 of them. Mark Andreessen, who's the youngest, invented the browser, and Tim Berners-Lee for the World Wide Web, and then 3 people, Louis Pouzin and Mr. Cerf and Mr. Khan of the United States for the World Wide Web.
Now, would you always have regarded that as engineering in the sort of literal sense?
I suppose when I started in the early 70s, no, but I certainly do now, because it allows us to do things with the product of science that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. It's created something new for humanity.
You're an engineer. What would you advise a young engineer to go into today? I mean, if you were looking at the energy sector, would you say stick to oil, there's plenty of it left, gas, renewables, or nuclear?
Well, I would do any one of these. What's extraordinary about engineering technology, it has now, of course, created an age of plenty. We have more oil and more gas than we've had for a very long time.
You're talking a planetary we rather than a British we, and a British we is in a bit of a mess. I mean, where are you? I mean, you're obviously interested in fracking, but if fracking's such a brilliant idea, why aren't the big boys, like BP, for example, involved in it?
Well, of course they are. Fracking was brought to the world, or fracking and unconventional gas and oil, was brought to the world with small companies in the United States. They started the process, big companies went in afterwards, and I'd expect the same thing to happen around the world.
But that's not the magic wand that's going to resolve Britain's energy problems, is it?
There's no single magic bullet, no single magic wand. Security lies in diversity and making sure that we don't have an energy policy that rules out one thing or favours another, because all we'd be doing is baking in today's ideas for tomorrow.
But the problem surely is, I mean, the government has got to be the funder of a lot of this, and they've got to make decisions, and things seem to be very sort of messy at the moment.
You say that, but in the United States, I haven't seen the federal government funding almost any of this. Actually, it's the market. The market fails, but often doesn't fail as many times as the government does.
But we're told that we're going to be running out of energy very soon. That we're already very dependent on the French to supply stuff through the Channel. We could not be self-sufficient, even if we wish to be. That's not a happy situation.
We shouldn't try to be self-sufficient, but we can try to be lowest possible cost for where we are. So we've got to make a mix of energies to get the cost down. So indigenous resources, the gas under our feet, the oil in the North Sea still to be recovered. These are very, very important things, as are nuclear and as are renewables. But it's the right mix. It's not one thing or the other, because that will surely come up with the wrong answer.
Well, but fracking, for example, is not really being given the kind of boost that it probably needs.
No, we need to think about how to fit fracking, which is happening onshore, into the very complex planning regulations onshore. I expect that anyone in any form of energy infrastructure project would say exactly the same thing. We need to step back and ask ourselves, do we really want this? Do we want it for the nation? I hope we do, in which case we need to make it possible.
Lord Browne, thank you very much for talking with us. Kathy.